If you're like me and you've been in a reading slump for a little while, then you know exactly how it feels to want to get into a really good book, but you just can't put your mind to it. I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to hopefully get out of a reading slump. First tip would be to read something that you already know that you love. And for me personally, that would be reading Throne of Glass. The amount of times that I have reread this book is insane. I keep coming back to it because I know how much I love it. And so it's easy for me to get that momentum to keep reading it to finish it off. Because once you finish a book, then you feel somewhat accomplished and you think, okay, maybe I can read the next one. So read something that you know you like or you've read before or you've given it a 5-star or a 6-star. If you know that you like it and you would want to read it again, definitely pick up a book that you know you can read again. My second tip, which might not make sense to some people, but it's to read a book that has a movie adaptation or a show adaptation. This makes sense to me because when I'm reading a book, it requires a lot of brain power to sort of understand what's going on in the book. So if I don't understand what's actually going on, then it makes me like not want to read. I just want to put the book down. It feels like a chore. So for me, reading a book that has a movie adaptation and that I've already watched, I sort of know what's going to happen or how the book is going to progress, which makes it a lot easier for me to understand what's going on in the book. For example, Harry Potter is a really big one. I feel like a lot of people have watched the Harry Potter movies. So if you have, it will be a lot easier for you to pick up this book because as you're reading it, you'll be like, oh, like I understand this is from that scene, that's from that scene. And so it's a little easier on your mind to sort of comprehend what's going on. Another big one for me is Pride and Prejudice. I've been a fan of Pride and Prejudice for a while. I've watched the 1995 version, the 2005 version. So because I've watched it so much, I understand what goes on. And so that actually made me pick up Pride and Prejudice when I was in a reading slump. And I read the whole thing in, I think, 2 days, which is pretty fast for me. And it was very good. And it was so easy for me to sort of understand and comprehend because I had already seen it. So I knew what scenes were going to come. I understood the setting. It was easy for me to understand and grasp. But if it was a whole new concept or a new book that I didn't understand, it requires a little more work. And when you're in that unmotivated state, you don't really want to read something where you have to put in a lot of effort to read it, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is a really big one. My third tip would be to read a short or fast-paced book. I know that a lot of people tend to lean towards those mafia romance sort of books when they're in a reading slump. Mostly, I think because they are very fast-paced vibe. It's like almost like a palate cleanser. It's just easy to sort of read. It's quick to understand, especially if you're someone like me that reads a lot of fantasy. A lot of those concepts in fantasy can be hard to understand at first. So when you read a mafia novel, it's a little easier to get. So I would definitely recommend The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. I remember I really liked that book and I've read it, I think about 3 times. It's a very quick book. It's just easy to understand. It's a part of a trilogy, I believe, but can be read as a standalone. On the other hand, I know that a lot of people don't like to read those sort of books. And if you're like me and you like to read fantasy or romance, that sort of vibe, then I would suggest Caraval, which I actually still am reading. I know that Caraval, I hear some people say it's sort of a fast-paced book or it's just an easy to digest book. So I would definitely say this one because it's not too long either. So it is pretty easy to read. So I would recommend this and I'm really enjoying it so far. So definitely try this as well. Okay, point number 4 is to read a book based on your mood, not on what you have in your TBR or to be read list. So many times I would sit there and think I need to read something and I'll go through my to be read list and I'm like, oh my God, like I really don't want to read this stuff, but like it's in my list, I should probably read it. That's not what you should do. You should definitely pick up something based on your mood. Whenever I'm feeling like I want to read something a little more action-packed or something a little more fun, I will definitely go and pick up Throne of Glass because this is basically about a girl. She's an assassin. She does these different trials and whatnot to sort of gain her freedom. So that is a very different sort of book to, let's say, a fantasy romance book. I would recommend The Bridge Kingdom for those people that are more into the romance sort of vibe. A lot of people are in the mood to pick up a romance book when they're in a reading slump. So it would definitely make a lot of sense to pick up this book because this has that sort of focus on romance rather than all the action and whatnot. So this one's very easy to digest. It's a very small book as well. So I think I read it in maybe 1 or 2 sittings, which is really good. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. My next tip is actually my biggest one, which is read something outside of your comfort zone. For me, that's what's worked the most. I am someone who predominantly reads fantasy, sometimes romantasy. I don't care too much about romance. I do prefer to just read fantasy alone. But when I'm in a reading slump, I notice that I tend to lean outside of that genre and I read mafia romances because they are, like I've said before, very easy to digest, very easy to read and quick. So in comparison to those fantasy novels that I would usually read, it's a lot easier on my mind and it's less work, if that makes sense. So I would definitely say go out of your comfort zone, maybe try something that's crime or just romance. I know that a lot of fantasy readers or romantasy readers like to read just romance instead of fantasy. That might be a lot more easier for you to read. So yeah, definitely just try to expand your horizons, try and read a different genre because that will definitely help you pick up different books. Okay, I hope that my tips maybe help some people want to pick up a book or feel a little more motivated to read a book. I know that for me personally, I love to watch other YouTubers and their recommendations in books. So I hope that this video was somewhat helpful to anyone. Even if my points didn't make sense to you, that's okay too. It's all about your opinion. So yeah, I definitely hope that I was somewhat helpful. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.